कलये सुन्दराकारं सदैकप्रियदर्शनम् अज्ञाननाशकं देवं सद्गुरुं मुरलीधरम् मुरलीमण्डितकरकमलं मुनिजनमोहनं व्यत्यस्तपादं वनमालाधारिणं प्रेमभक्तमण्डलनित्यकीर्तितं प्रेमिकवरदम् आश्रये। सर्वत्र गोविन्दनाम संकीर्तनं गोविन्दा गोविन्दा। Radhe Radhe, and once again very happy to be with all our lovely satsang brethren to discuss about the life of Bhagavathar Dharma, enjoying, relishing Parayanam, listening to katha, doing kirtan, etc. And here, today I thought we will remember a few great Bhagavatas who are pretty much a generation before us, almost our contemporaries, we can say. And we were talking last time about listening, isn't it? Nivritta tarshai rupagi amanat bhavaushada chotra manobhi ramati ka uttama shloka gunanuvadat puman virajjeta vina apashugnati. Generally, we take Parikshit Maharaja as an ideal example for the type of devotion which is associated with listening, called shravana bhakti, a devotion which is in form of voracious listening to katha. And we have some very modern examples of such great Mahatmas, you see. Generally, we think, and most of our stories or inspiring tales are about generally meditation or generally about a state of spiritual attainment itself. But we should also not lose sight of great examples and the great inspiring tales of people who have been great listeners, you see. And I thought I will remind and remember two lovely people who are just in the last century, just about 60 years back, 70 years back, were in our place in India. And let me first introduce you to an elderly person who is whose pet name is Pattu Thaatha. You all know what Pattu is, isn't it? Pattu means something which is very sweet. The real meaning of Pattu means silk, of course. And so he was called Pattu Thaatha. And he was a great Bhagavata. Now, when I say Bhagavata, please don't just think that a person who knows to sing and he sings a few devotional songs or bhajans is a Bhagavata. Of course, he is also a Bhagavata. A Bhagavata is not known just by the singing skills. A Bhagavata is defined by the sterling qualities and the tremendous bhakti or love he or she has for Bhagavan. So a Bhagavata is a person whom Bhagavan himself adores, you see. So he was this great Bhagavata. And when you get time, you can Google and find out where this village is. The name of the village is called Soolamangalam. A generation before you, if they had been associated with Tamil Nadu, they will know. There was a great writer called Soolamangalam Subbu, and he has written a lot of songs, etc. So he is from this village called Soolamangalam. And he was a great Bhagavata. And the pet name, like we say, Tukiri Party, this time I am going to tell you a Tata story. His name is Pattu Thaatha. And he came from a family of Bhagavatas. I bet that each of you, if you trace your, forefathers, maybe you will find a Bhagavata immediately as your parent. That aside, your great-grandfather or a great-grandmother, either from father's side or mother's side, would have been certainly a person leading a Bhagavata dharmic life in a village or a city in India. That's my bet. You can certainly dig in deep and sort of vindicate my statement. So here is the Soolamangalam, a small village. It's all in the southern part of Tamil Nadu. And at that time juncture, the head of the Marudanallur Sadguru Swami Mutt was this wonderful great saint called Periya Kuzhandai Swami. Okay, And as Bhagavatas, the general day, the day does not go pass by without pravachan or without parayan or without Bhagavad Chintana. And our Sadguru Swamiji, Sadguru Periya Kudandai Swamiji was no exception. He used to go around and wherever there are Bhagavatas like Pattu Thaatha's home, he is always welcome. And they would never let him go without listening to his pravachan. And he was a lover of Bhagavatam. And so here he was. He came on a very auspicious day. It was a Skanda Shashti, Utsavam. It's a very special Utsavam which happens to Lord Muruga. And it used to happen with great eclat and elan in Soolamangalam also. So it was a day when he came late in the evening, and Pattu Thaatha was excited. He invited Sadguru Swamiji with due respect. He said Swagatam. He did Argyam, Padhyam, Achamaniyam, gave him a seat. And it was his family's turn to offer respects to the procession of Muruga Peruman on Skanda Shashti. Right? You all know this, obviously. In villages during the special festival days, we call Tiruvizha, Utsav days, the Swami used to come as a procession. And in those days, each family takes leadership, or they take the patronage, or they are the patrons for a specific day. So they say, fifth divine day, Anjavadu Tirunal is on me. Aravadu Tirunal is on me. The sixth day of procession is specially sponsored, or especially I am the Poshaka for that. And it so happened that day the chief patron was our Pattu Thaatha, to offer respects, fruits, betel leaves, etc., to the deity who comes as a procession. So it's called Mandagapadi, right? And so the Swami was supposed to come somewhere around, say, 11 o'clock. It generally, they come very late, okay? So they start at 8 o'clock from the temple. They have to go through all the streets of the village. At times they go to a couple of villages. And by the time Swami comes and comes to the front entrance of your house, it may be 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, etc. So generally it was about, they expected Swami at around 10 o'clock, and our Sadguru Swamiji came at 8. Pattu Thaatha was such a passionate and such a voracious listener of Bhagavatam. He had tremendous love for Bhagavatam. I mean, you will see what I mean when I've been constantly, at times even I feel overemphasized on the importance of listening, you see. So Pattu Thaatha invited our Sadguru Swamiji, and he requested, Swamiji, some Bhagavat Vishayam Nadakalame. Why don't you grace us with some divine subject from Bhagavatam? And when somebody requests for pravachan, the Sadguru, and of course, a Bhagavata would say, never say no. It's a chance for the Bhagavata to plunge in deep into the dhyana of the Ishta Devata in form of pravachan. So pravachan is more a penance. It's a tapas. And so when our Sadguru Swamiji was requested, immediately he sat down, and then he decided, let me actually do the pravachan of Kuchela Upakya. You all know Kuchela Upakya, no? Sudama Charitra, the classmate of our Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So right now we have sort of an unspoken standard of 2 hours, right? We don't expect the audience to, sit beyond 2 hours. So most of the lectures are modeled around 2 hours at a stretch. But believe me, about 50, 60 years back, there was no such limits imposed. Neither were the lectures done to cater to that sabhas or to all these committees or groups of people. It was done only to please the inner soul, which is Antaryami, which is my own inner dweller, Krishna. And it is done as a means to win over the blessings of Bhagavatas. Great devotional Mahatmas would be very happy if I do pravachan. So it was done only for these 2 purposes. Okay. So when our Sadguru Swamiji came to our Pattu Thaatha's home, it was already about 8 o'clock. And he says, I will tell you Kuchela Upakya. And there it started. Krishna Sasi, Saka, Kaschite. You see, there was this wonderful friend of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, who was a Brahma, he was a Brahmanottamaha. He was also the one who studied the Vedas, and he was completely in control of the senses. And so the actual pravachan started. Now this is a couple of chapters, right? Somewhere around the 80th chapter in 10th canto. So this is Kuchela Upakhyanā, 2 chapters. But do you know when he started at 8, the pravachan went on till 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2 a.m. 6 hours of showering, nectarine showers of this Kuchela Upakhyanā. And Pattu Thaatha was completely absorbed in pravachan. And at 2 o'clock, the pravachan stopped. And Pattu Thaatha came back to his so-called worldly senses, then called his wife and said, Endi, innamuma purapada ala. He called his wife and said, Are, it is already 2 o'clock in the morning. Still the procession has not come home. What's wrong? Why is there so much delay? Then his wife, our Pattu Thaatha's party, okay, the party told Pattu Thaatha, Are, this procession came at 10 o'clock and it didn't come silently. There was this melam, there was this beating of all the drums, melam. There was this wonderful nadaswaram. And there was this big group which came along with our Muruga Peruman, Lord Kartikeya. And when it approached our home, I called out your name. I asked Enna, Enna, but you are not even listening. You are completely drowned in this Kuchela Upakhyanā. And our Sadguru Swamiji also did not notice Perumal coming. He was also completely immersed in the exposition of Kuchela Upakhyanā. So I decided I didn't want to bother you. So what I did was I offered these fruits to our Perumal, and I myself finished our Mandagapadi. I myself completed our obligation to Muruga Perumal. And he was sitting right in the veranda. He was not in the inside of the house. It's called Tinnai, the outer veranda, where you have a small little place to maximum, 3 people can sit and 1 can just lie down. And this Sadguru Swami was telling the katha in the veranda, in the outside porch of the house. And Peruman was actually passing that street out there. Our Pattu Thaatha had absolutely no awareness of anything else except the katha. And it was same with Sadguru Swami also. You see. And such is the character of people who immerse themselves in divinity while telling the katha. And such is the character of such great Bhagavatars who completely forget their world when they listen to katha. Such was the greatness of this Pattu Thaatha. And such is the immense vitality, and such is the immense significance, and such is the immense importance of katha shravanam and katha pravachanam. You see. And I remember a Sri Vaishnava tradition, Sampradayam, where there was this great Sri Vaishnava Acharya. His name was Parashara Bhattar Swamin. And our Parashara Bhattar Swamin had a lot of discussions with his very well learned disciple called Nanjiyar. And this records of discussions are, height of rasa. You see, such beautiful questions and such great answers. You need to be a rasika of the highest order to appreciate the question and the answer. And we will take it slowly and we will start exploring that also as we explore Bhagavatam. Once our Parashara Bhatta Swami was sitting and discussing the Bhagavad Guna of Ranganatha Swami. It started at around 5 o'clock in the evening. And when people, the person who was discussing the wonderful qualities of our Ranganatha Swami, our Namberumal, was also a Rasikacharya. And our Bhatta Swami, needless to even mention, was a great Rasikacharya of the highest order. So they forgot time. And slowly, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, they finished their discussion at 9. Generally, such Mahatmas and such Acharya Purushas are very much stickler for ensuring that they don't miss any rituals like Sandhya Vandanam, etc. And they generally take a break to do their ablutions so that they don't miss what is called as a daily ritual, Nitya Karmanushtana. But that day it went on and on till 9 o'clock. And Nanjiyar said, I tried signaling you to take a break, Swami, so that you can do your evening Sandhya Vandanam. But you didn't even pay notice to my signal. You were so much absorbed in talking about the wonderful qualities, Bhagavad Guna of our Ranganatha Swami. Is it okay to actually even transgress the obligatory daily duties and listen to all these? Our Bhattar immediately replied, if I forget to do all my daily obligatory karma, there is always expiation called prayaschitta, and I just have to add a few more sprinkling of water to take care of the delay. But if I interrupt this Bhagavad Guna, I may lose it forever. So for me to lose something which is far more precious called Bhagavad Guna, why should I not postpone this? Because it anyway has a little bit of expiation. We can actually make up for the delay with a few more karma out there. Such is the significance of Bhagavad Guna Kalakshepa. Bhagavat means divine, Guna means qualities, which is katha and is great, beautiful qualities of Bhagavan. And Kalakshepa means utilizing the time so that our mind dwells in the divine. Okay, so Bhagavad Guna Kalakshepa. So that is how Pattu Thaatha was. It was his annual obligation to the deity, but because of his complete immersion into the katha, his mami, which is Pati, did all the actual taking care of the divine guest, which was Lord Kartikeya Swami. And that was the amount of love this Pattu Thaatha had, the love and passion for listening to katha. That was the quality of his shravana. And the one who is telling the story, our Sadguru Swamiji's quality of telling the katha. And that's the reason why there can't be any excuse when we don't pay attention to katha. A little child running here and there, or a child crying. All these are distractions for people who have not yet been adept in listening to katha. For people who are rasikas, they can listen to katha no matter what happens. You see. And this Pattu Thaatha came to Chennai, to a place called Nungambakam. And he came and settled in Nungambakam. And he started a satsang in Nungambakam. You all know Nungambakam, right? Near the Valluvar Kotam in Chennai. And he used to always do Radha Kalyanam once in a year, calling the Bhagavatars. And then he came and settled there. During that time, one of the top pravachanakartas, people who used to give lectures, was this great Shastri called Tediyur Subramanya Shastri. This Tediyur Subramanya Shastri tells katha in a very sweet way. There are some recordings available, I guess, in YouTube. I'm not sure. But people who have heard Tediyur Subramanya Shastri say that he actually speaks so sweet, so nectarine. His voice itself will be so soothing, and as if it is like honey being poured into our ears. Such used to be the nectarine pravachan of this Shastri. And our Pattu Thaatha, being such a lover of stories, used to go and sit in the first row to listen to the katha. He was not one of those fringe seaters. Fringe seaters means they sit in the last row or they sit near the exit so that they don't have to embarrass themselves or the speaker when they have to slip away. But the intention when they come and sit in the hall itself is, when do I need to slip out? But then people who are like passionate about listening, they are very clear. Unless they chuck me out of this room, I shall sit down and listen till the very end. Till the speaker says, Sarvatra Govindanam Sankirtanam Govinda, I won't leave this room. You see? So they come and sit in the front. And Pattu Thaatha was one such person who wanted to actually listen and relish. And The moment our Tediyur Shastrigal used to tell about Krishna Katha and Rama Katha, our Pattu Thaatha heart will start melting. He would start crying out aloud during those very moving moments of Ramayana. And he used to feel excited and jump in those wonderful, exciting moments of Krishna Katha. He used to clap. He used to say, Aha. He used to say, Krishna. He used to shout, Sitaram. And he used to say, Hare, Hare, Aha. And at times, he used to forget himself and even get up and start dancing. You see, when somebody does like that, what will the organizer feel? So the organizer felt maybe Pattu Thaatha may be a disturbance for the speaker. So quietly, very diplomatically, that day night, they went to his home and told Pattu Thaatha, Thaatha, we know that you are a wonderful Bhagavata. We have utmost respect for you. But then there is a community and there are some decorum which we need to follow when there is this group of people trying to listen to a katha. Can we request you not to come to the katha tomorrow? You see, that's what they said. Pattu Thaatha did not show his emotions. Pattu Thaatha said, absolutely no problem. I will try to sit in my house and you have put some speakers outside. I will try to listen from there. Not a problem at all. Next day, our Shastrigal, Tediyur Subramanya Shastrigal, he came. And like any other day, he started by chanting the divine names, but he did not start the katha at all. The organizer waited for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then slowly went and said, Shastrigal, why have you not started your katha? Can you please start your katha now? It's already 7 and all the people have come. The hall is full. The mic is working. And what stops you from telling the katha? Shastrigal said when the mic was on, the Soolamangalam Bhagavathar வழக்கமா தொடர்ச்சியா கதை கேட்டுன்னு வராரு ஒன்னும் அவர் முன்ன உட்காரட்டும் அப்புறம் நான் ஆரம்பிக்கிறேன். The Soolamangalam Bhagavathar used to come without a break regularly. He used to come 10 minutes before I come, sit in the front row, constantly waiting for me to start the katha. And let that great Rasika, which is Soolamangalam Bhagavathar, let him come and sit down in front of me, then I will start the katha. Immediately, he was such a great, respected Shastri. See, immediately the organizer ran to the house of Pattu Thaatha, fell at the feet of Pattu Thaatha, begged for his forgiveness, and then brought him to the hall. And only after our Pattu Thaatha came and sat down in the front row, Tediyur Shastrigal visibly was so happy. He smiled at Thaatha and started the katha. Tapaswadhyaya niratham. He started the katha only after seeing our Pattu Thaatha. And that is the beauty of such great Mahatmas. They are no less Mahatmas. When you have the true taste and true thirst for Krishna Katha, that itself is a sign that Krishna is very happy with us. Sadguru is very happy with us. And when we have that taste and thirst, no separate dhyana or no separate sadhana is deemed required, essential. Why? Because that absorption in that katha, when we are listening to katha from a Satpatra, from a Bhagavad Guna Pravachana katha, that absolute attention one slips into by listening to the katha itself is the highest form of meditation. And such was this great Bhagavathar from this village called Soolamangalam. And his name is Pattu Thaatha. Nice story. And there are many, many Bhagavatas like him. So I think we will explore such Bhagavatas who showed tremendous love and taste for Bhagavata Dharma. In our times, this is not Parikshit. We are not talking about Lavakusa or Parikshit or Viswamitra. We are talking about our times. We are talking about our places. And to this day, there are people like that. And our Bhagavata Dharma lives by Bhagavata Dharma. Dharma lives because of such Bhagavatas. Even if there are few, Bhagavan showers his grace to the world looking at those Bhagavatas. Like how a cow happily, gives her milk looking at her little baby calf. And the milk actually becomes a source of energy and nourishment for not just the calf, but so many people. Likewise, Bhagavan, out of Vatsalya towards such Bhagavatas, bestows his grace on the entire humankind. And next week, or whenever we meet again, we will come back with an inspiring tale of one other contemporary Bhagavata. And the name of that Bhagavata is, we talked about Pattu, na? So next time we will talk about Pattu Thaatha. Pattu is silk, Panju is cotton. And we covered Pattu now, and we will go to Pattu Thaatha's greatness in the next satsang. And once again, it's wonderful that all of us are relishing this journey of reading, listening, contemplating, thinking about, and immersing ourselves in Srimad Bhagavatam. May our beloved Guru Maharaj and Thakurji ever bless us with more and more taste and more conviction in the lovely path which we have somehow landed ourselves in by the divine grace of our Guru and Bhagavan. Sadguru Maharaj ki jai. Sarvatra Govinda Nama Sankirtanam Govinda Govinda. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare. Radhe Radhe.